This part 1 video in this series discusses China and Germany's latest moves to prepare for the Third World War and how it will be provoked. Hello friends, this is Unmasked Truth with Harmanjit Saini, where I provide unique analysis of world events based on the unmasked truth that after surrender, Germany continued World War II clandestinely and became a killing machine. I also provide true news that you will find nowhere else. Some of the moves China and Germany are making to start and prepare for the Third World War will sound weird, but will make perfectly good sense if one takes Bible prophecy into account, which the Germans certainly do, based on their prior experience. They know that with his prophecies, God has put constraints on how end-time world events must unfold. From experience, the Germans know that they must operate within those constraints. What drives their actions is the prophecy that a German-led alliance in Europe with other alliance partners will defeat the United States, British Commonwealth nations, and Israel, or UBI nations, in a war and enslave their population, which will allow them to take over the lands for themselves. Germans now rely on the German masquerader prophet in God's church, Gerald R. Flurry, head of the small Philadelphia Church of God, for their understanding of prophecy. I also provide interpretations of Bible prophecies, and my interpretations don't always agree with Gerald Flurry's interpretations. That puts the Germans in a dilemma of how to develop war strategies that could conform to both of our interpretations of prophecies. That will become clear as I explain their latest moves. Prophecies provide milestone events. The Germans' objective is to choose the path through each milestone that is most favorable to them towards their goal of defeating the UBI nations with the least harm to themselves. While both Gerald Flurry and my understanding of prophecy is based on what founder of our parent church, Worldwide Church of God, Mr. Herbert W. Armstrong, taught us, God always adds to our understanding of prophecy as events unfold. Mr. Armstrong passed away on January 16, 1986. Since then, our understanding of end-time events has become clearer. But understanding of two persons will diverge even though they may have started from a common base, unless both individuals are inspired by their true God. That is generally true of all human understanding for different individuals over time. Since our understanding of prophecy has diverged, question arises, which one of us, Gerald Flurry or me, is inspired by God and which one is not? God himself gave proof that he has delivered messages to me through angels by delivering the first message to me that I am of Jewish ancestry. Then God confirmed to the late Queen Elizabeth II that I was also a descendant of King David, who was a Jew. Now, I have acknowledged that God used Gerald Flurry to preach a warning message to God's church to get back on track after Mr. Armstrong's successor dismantled everything God had restored to his church through him. The church went astray and had to be warned to get back on track. After learning in 1996 that I had been appointed to the office of a prophet, Gerald Flurry had to make a decision whether he should also claim that office. He chose to do so and started lying to justify his claims. In fact, he then started claiming every title and office you could find in the Bible and started applying them to himself. I've explained all his lies and claims in my ebook, Tale of the False Prophet and Fake Apostle, available free on my religion website, www.churchofgodmessage.com. After Gerald Flurry started lying, God could no longer work with him. Then God started working with David C. Pack, head of the small Restored Church of God, till he too started lying around 2004-2005 and claiming the highest title of apostle for himself. After that, many ministers asked me to start preaching in early 2005. When a man starts lying and doing God's work, he can no longer work with him. Since then, both Gerald Furry and David Pack have committed murder, declaring that they are German masqueraders and have made a commitment to the German side, which is Satan's side. Since Gerald Furry has joined Satan's side, it proves that he is now being inspired by Satan in his understanding of prophecies. That's why our understanding of prophecy has diverged. I also believe that Gerald Furry is claiming that he receives inspiration in understanding prophecies, and the German masquerader leadership in God's church has discussed the matter with him, and they agree that Satan is inspiring and guiding him about prophecy. I too believe that he is now inspired by Satan in his understanding of prophecies, such as his prediction that former President Trump is fulfilling the role of King Jeroboam II of ancient Israel. By the way, I would like to add to how the President of the United States could be treated when the United States, BritCom nations, and Israel are defeated, in addition to being killed, as Gerald Flurry has predicted according to Amos 7 verse 11. Ezekiel 12 verse 13 says concerning the prince who is among them, "My net also will I spread upon him, and he shall be taken in my snare, and I will bring him to Babylon, to the land of the Chaldeans. Yet shall he not see it, though he shall die there." Anciently, this prophecy was fulfilled when King Nebuchadnezzar had King Zedekiah's eyes put out, and he was then taken to Babylon and died there. Therefore, though he went to Babylon, his eyes did not see the land. But verse 6 says that Ezekiel was assigned to the house of Israel, which is America and BritCom nations. Therefore, there could be a dual fulfillment of this prophecy, meaning that the Germans may also put out the eyes of a leader of the United States, BritCom nations, and Israel, probably the President of the United States, before putting him to death. But I am not claiming that there definitely will be a dual fulfillment, because what is described in verses 13 to 16 is so precise about what happened to King Zedekiah. And moreover, the United Church of God commentary on these verses applies it to King Zedekiah of ancient Israel and does not say that it is prophecy for the future. Coming back to the Church of God's understanding of these prophecies during Mr. Armstrong's days, before God delivered a message to me, the defeat of the king of the south by the king of the north, mentioned in Daniel 11 verses 40 to 43, takes place before the German-led alliance defeats the United States, BritCom nations, and Israel. Gerald Flurry's current understanding is that Iran is the king of the south, with its alliance partners in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Palestinians, Yemen, and Egypt. According to his interpretation, Iran or some of its alliance partners will provoke Germany somehow, leading Germany to attack them and Iran. When the king of the south is undergoing the process of being defeated, news will come to the king of the north that Russia and other eastern nations are mobilizing to take advantage of the situation and conquer the United States, British Commonwealth nations, and Israel for themselves. The king of the north then moves quickly for the attack on the UBI nations, defeats and enslaves them. My understanding of prophecies diverged from that of Gerald Furry primarily because in October 1998, when I was in Vail, Colorado, attending church holy days called the Feast of Tabernacles, God delivered a message to me through an angel that the plagues mentioned in Revelation 8 verses 6 to 12 are describing the subduing of the king of the south and Islamic African power by the king of the north, a German-led alliance, as mentioned in Daniel 11 verses 40 to 44, which state, "And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries, and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter also into the glorious land, meaning Israel, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. And the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy, and utterly to make away many. Now this changed the sequence of end time events from our previous understanding, because these events in Revelation 8 take place after the UBI nations are defeated and are in slavery, as described in the fifth seal of Revelation 6. Therefore, while Gerald Flurry is interpreting that first the king of the north attacks the king of the south and then attacks the UBI nations, my interpretation based on God's message to me is that UBI nations are defeated first by a German-led alliance, as mentioned in Psalm 83, and are in slavery. Then the German-led alliance falls apart because of some provocations, leading Germany to attack the king of the south. Now, another prophecy that must be considered is that the part of the alliance of nations that defeats the UBI nations is mentioned in Psalm 83 verses 1 to 8, which state, "Do not keep silent, O God, do not hold your peace, and do not be still, O God, for behold, your enemies make a tumult, and those who hate you have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against your people, and consulted together against your sheltered ones," meaning God's church. "They have said, Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be remembered no more. For they have consulted together with one consent. They form a confederacy against you, the tents of Edom," Edom is Turkey, "and the Ishmaelites," meaning the Arabs. Now, Gerald Flurry includes only Saudi Arabia in this prophecy, though I include many other nations such as Egypt and Libya in the coalition. Then continuing, Moab, which is South Jordan, and the Hagarites, which are in Syria. Gebal means Lebanon, Ammon means North Jordan, and Amalek means the Palestinians. Philistia means the Palestinians again, and the inhabitants of Tyre, which are in South Lebanon. Assyria, which is Germany, also has joined with them. They have helped the children of Lot, who are Moab and Ammon in Jordan. We all agree that the king of the north is a German leader. Gerald Flurry believes that the king of the south is Iran. My understanding is a little different. Daniel 11:42 to 43 identifies three nations that are defeated by the king of the north, which are Egypt, Libya, and Ethiopia. Verse 41 mentions that many countries shall be overthrown, but Edom, which is mainly Turkey, Moab, and Ammon, both of which are Jordan, shall escape being defeated. Therefore, I believe that the king of the south will come from these nations rather than Iran, though I have not ruled out the leader coming out of Iran and leading an alliance of these nations, as Iran's entire territory lies south of the territory of the king of the north, which is Germany. Also, Iran is currently allied with many of these nations. Now, this does not rule out that other nations can be part of the alliance of the king of the south, which are not mentioned in Psalm 83. In addition, verse 6 mentions the tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites, which means that these nations could invite foreign Muslim fighters to fight with them, as ISIS has done. There are many foreigners who reside in Saudi Arabia and Iraq and other nations as well. Another very important prophecy has to be taken into account by all sides, which concerns an entity known as Babylon, or its end time version known as the daughter of Babylon. During Mr. Armstrong's time, God's church understood Babylon to mean the end time resurrection of the ancient Babylonian system, a religious political entity. We also understand it to mean the seventh and final resurrection of the ancient Holy Roman Empire, with the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church as the religious head and the German leader as the political and military head of this system. This system will defeat the UBI nations in the end time. But with the return of Jesus Christ, this system will be utterly destroyed. Now, nations lament the destruction of the Babylonian system in Revelation 18, verses 5 to 8 and 19 to 21, which state, "For her sins have reached unto heaven," that means Babylon, "and God has remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she has fill to her double. How much she has glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she says in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, in prophecy 1 day equals a year. Death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judges her. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. Rejoice over her, you heaven, and you holy apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. However, before Jesus Christ ends this system, an Eastern alliance known as the Kings of the East will militarily devastate this entity based in Europe with a 200 million man army. Revelation 9 verses 13 to 18 state, And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar which is before God, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, Loose the 4 angels which abound in the great river Euphrates. And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200 million, and I heard the number of them. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and of brimstone, and heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. By these 3 was the third part of men killed, by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths. That is still my interpretation of this prophecy. But I believe Gerald Flurry and the other masquerader leaders in God's church have a different interpretation of this prophecy, though they do not state it openly in their publications. They believe Babylonian prophecy refers to the same area as that of the ancient kingdom of Babylon over which King Nebuchadnezzar ruled. That is the land currently in the countries of Iraq and some parts of Syria, including Lebanon, and small parts of northwest Iran, where ISIS, that is the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, set up a caliphate after it captured a large part of Iraqi territory in 2014 and took control of large areas in eastern Syria during its civil war. By the end of 2015, an estimated 8 to 12 million people lived under its control and had a $1 billion operating budget with about 30,000 fighters. However, by 2019, it had lost the last of its Middle Eastern territories due to US and Russian operations and returned to insurgency tactics in the regions it once controlled, operating from hideouts and continuing its propaganda efforts. Gerald Flurry and other masquerader prophets believe that the destruction of Babylon means the destruction of the entity ruling in the geographical area of ancient Babylon. That means the destruction of the German-led seventh resurrection of the Europe-based Holy Roman Empire at the hands of the Eastern nations will not take place according to their interpretation. Therefore, after the German-led alliance defeats the UBI nations, they will completely destroy the UBI nations' populations and take over their land for themselves permanently. They are so sure of their interpretation that even the top leaders in God's church, including Gerald Flurry, his son Stephen Flurry, David Pack, and hundreds of others in the United States, along with thousands of lay members, were willing to participate in murdering a genuine white member of non-German ancestry in God's church to cement their relationship with the Germans and German masqueraders, to be spared persecution in the Great Tribulation and stay and rule in the UBI lands in perpetuity. Psalm 83, 4-5 quoted earlier actually describes their thinking. They have said, "Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be remembered no more. For they have consulted together with one consent, they form a confederacy against you." Clearly, interpretations of prophecies by Gerald Flurry and me have diverged. I believe Gerald Flurry is sticking by his interpretations because he believes he has been inspired in his understanding. I too am sticking by my interpretations because they are based on the message God delivered to me through an angel. Diverging interpretations pose a dilemma for the Germans and Chinese. They tried to fulfill prophecies in Daniel 11. They tried to fulfill prophecies in Daniel 11, 40-44 concerning defeat of the king of the south by the king of the north, which is Germany, and defeat of Babylon by setting up ISIS in the geographical area of ancient Babylon. They helped set it up. After ISIS had committed plenty of atrocities, Germany's plan was to attack and destroy it. In their thinking, it would destroy the king of the south as well as destroy Babylon, which means that the Holy Roman Empire, which it would be leading, would not be destroyed, according to their interpretations of prophecy. After destroying ISIS, the German-led alliance would then attack the UBI nations, enslave their populations, and take over their lands in perpetuity. But apparently Satan told them not to do so. The reason would be that God did not allow Satan to have these prophecies fulfilled that way. Now Germany and China have to go back to the drawing board to plan their war strategies that would conform to the diverging interpretations of prophecies. Gerald Flurry has been proclaiming for decades that Iran is the king of the south and is still doing so. The regimes in Iran and Iraq and Syria, in Lebanon through Hezbollah, and in Yemen through the Houthis are firmly in the Iranian camp. Hamas is allied with them, so is the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. In a recent interview with Face the Nation program on CBS, former CENTCOM or U.S. Central Command commander from 2019 to 2022, General Frank McKenzie stated that Al-Qaeda is at a historical low point and mired in theocratic debates, whereas ISIS has proved to be more enduring and is gaining strength in Afghanistan by taking advantage of the large ungoverned spaces there. General McKenzie also stated that Iran is the most significant threat in the region, with hegemonic dreams and the goal of ejecting the United States out of the region. It's possible ISIS may again get a foothold in Iraq and Syria. But we also must remember that ISIS means that it is a ruler of the area that was anciently Babylon. Therefore, though Germany was prevented from attacking ISIS by Satan, they may still attempt to fulfill the prophecy of defeating the king of the south by attacking either in the geographical area of ancient Babylon or destroying ISIS in Afghanistan now, because it is still the ruler, ruler of Iraq and Syria. In their thinking, Perhaps in this case the timing will be right and Satan will give them the go ahead to do so because Gerald Flurry is prophesying it under Satan's inspiration. In part 2 video, I will discuss what are the steps China and Germany are taking in Southeast Asia, Egypt and Ethiopia, and in Libya and other countries to navigate through these divergent interpretations of prophecies so that they are preparing to fulfill them either way. And they are dealing with Egypt, Libya, Ethiopia because I have indicated that the king of the south might come from that land. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please continue to watch my videos on important world events, World War III watch, politics, international business, how Bible prophecy is playing an important role in world affairs, advice on health and medical problems, and much more for in-depth and insightful analysis. Please also subscribe to my YouTube and Facebook channels Unmasked Truth with Harmanjit Saini to view and get information on the latest videos.